Hi, this is Ali Arango for gamevisualz. Today in this tutorial you're going to learn how to set up first-person movement as far as moving your player around, as well as being able to aim your mouse and be able to look where your mouse is looking at. You're going to learn how to set up a fire point that's going to allow your player to shoot out projectiles. You're going to learn how to set up enemies and have the enemies disappear when they're hit with bullets. You're also going to learn how to work with Nav Mesh artificial intelligence that's included inside of Unity. So what the Nav Mesh does is when you get close to, well, not when you get close, you're going to learn how to have the enemies, when you get close enough to them, come after you. What the Nav Mesh does is this enemy that's chasing after me, as I move back, the enemy from the Nav Mesh, so I'll go so you can see, okay, it went a little around the side of that cube. The enemies will navigate around the objects. So I'll press escape so I can come out of there. Okay, as you go through this tutorial, with me, what I try to do is I try to not only explain what I'm doing, I try to explain why I'm doing what I'm doing. So I hope that you will learn a lot from this tutorial, and I hope that you enjoy it. Okay, what we want to do now is set up so that our player can shoot. We also want to set up things so that we know where our player is looking at. Okay, what we want to do now is go to the upper left of our screen. We're going to go to Game Object. We're going to go down to UI, then select Image. Okay, when we look to the right of our screen, we can see these options now for our image. See where we see Source Image? We're going to go to the right of here and then select this small circle. Okay, then over to the left of the screen, you can see these different pictures that popped up. We're going to, we'll use this. And we're using these just because these are available to us. So now I'll just select the X to go out of there. Okay, for the position of this image, we want to go to position X, change this to 0, then go to position Y, change this to 0 as well. And now you can see in this view, this is right in the center of our screen. Okay, so I'm going to go to the preview. Okay, now we can see that we basically can use this as a target. I'm going to press escape. Come out of there. Okay, one thing that takes up a lot of space. So what we can do is go to scale. So we'll change this to, let's try 0.1 as well as 0.1. So we'll go back to our preview window. Okay, so now we just have that, the target, what we're using for this target site is much smaller. I like the size that it is now. So I'm going to press escape to come out of this preview. Okay, what we need to do now is to make something that we can shoot a bullet from. To do that, we're going to go to Game Object, and then we're going to select Create Empty. So this empty is now currently named Game Object. So we're going to right click and then select Rename. We're going to rename this Fire Point. Then press Enter to lock that name in. Okay, I'm going to select my player. I'm going to go to the right, to the X position. I'm going to zero that out. Then I'm going to zero out the position for Y. And I did that so that the player will be lined up with the fire point. So now what we're going to do is left click on the fire point. That's interesting. Oh, I see the players in the ground. So let's lift the player up. So we're going to select the fire point. So with the fire point selected, we'll go to the X position, zero that out. The Y position, zero that out. Go to the Z position, then zero that out. So now I'm just moving the fire point up. Okay, so we need to make a script to have our fire point work. So I'm going to right click down in our assets panel. I'm going to go to create and then select C# script. I'm going to name this capital T throws capital O objects and press enter to lock that in. Okay, I'm going to double click on this script to go into Visual Studio. So we can see our code right here now. Okay, for this code, we don't need a start function, so we're just going to get rid of that. So what we need is we need a variable to work with the fire points. We're going to go right beneath this first curly bracket. We're going to put in public capital T transform. Visual Studio wants to help us out, so I'm like, let it. We're going to name this fire point. And we're going to put semicolon in that statement. We're going to put in another variable that's public game object. I'm going to press tab to have Visual Studio help us out. Then we're going to put in bullet prefab. Then we'll put in semicolon to end that statement off. Okay, now we're going to make an if statement with a function to have our fire point have the ability to shoot. So we're going to put in if parentheses input dot get button. Visual Studio wants to help us out, so I'm like, let it. So we'll press the tab key to let it help us out. We'll put in down. When you see get button down, down actually means push the button and then let go. We're going to put in parentheses, capital F. Oh, actually, we need quotation, capital F, fire, 1, quotation. We'll come outside of these parentheses just using the arrow keys. Then we're going to put in a curly bracket. Wait a second. Yeah, curly bracket. There we go. So we're going to put shoot. Parentheses. Semicolon. Okay, so what's going on here is we are calling a function. Now we have to actually make that function that we're calling. So we're going to go outside of this void update, press enter. Press enter again. Now what I'm going to do is put in void. So there's tab. Press that just to help us out. Shoot. Enter. Then we'll put in a curly bracket. So what we want to do here is put in instantiate. We'll press tab to put that in, and this will actually make the bullet in world. We'll put in parentheses. And we're putting in that bullet prefab. So we'll press tab. Then we're going to put a comma after that, space. We want to put in fire point. We'll press tab to get that in. Dot position. We'll press tab to get that in. Comma. Fire point. Dot. We'll press tab to get that in. Rotation. Then we're going to go to the end of here and put in a semicolon. Okay, what we want to do now is save this script. Okay, here we are back in Unity. We're going to go to our hierarchy. We're going to left click on our player. I'm going to go to the right to our inspector and then select some of these arrows just to give us some space. I'm then going to go to the throws object script, left click and drag to put this on the player or attach it to the player. Okay, there was an error showing to the right. As soon as I saved Unity, that error went away. What we need to do now is make a bullet. So what we're going to do is go to the upper left, go to game object. We'll go to 3D object. Then we'll go to sphere to make a sphere. Okay, we're going to right click on the sphere in the hierarchy. We're going to rename this bullet. We'll also go to the upper left to the scale tool. I'm going to drag in the center and I'm pulling down just to make the sphere smaller, or our bullet smaller. I just went to the upper left and just selected the move tool. Okay, with the bullet selected, we're going to look to the right. We're going to go to add component. And what we want is, we want to go to physics. And then we want to select a rigid body to add a rigid body to our bullet. Okay, with this rigid body on here, we're going to go to this triangle, select that. Oh, that's wrong. That's material. We want the rigid body. There we go. So we're going to leave things as they are. However, when we see this use gravity, we're going to unselect that use gravity. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to go to the left and we're going to left click and drag this bullet down into our assets. So now this bullet is a prefab. So because the bullet is a prefab, we can select the bullet here being in the scene, and delete that bullet. Okay, what we want to do now is click on our player. When we look on our player, we see this, the throws object script. So what we want to do is look to the left where we see fire point. We want to left click and drag the fire point into the none slot. Then we also want to take the bullet prefab from our assets and drag that into the bullet prefab slot. Okay, also what we want to do is we're going to go to the left to our hierarchy. We're going to select the triangle next to the player. We're going to take the fire point, left click and drag that to parent the fire point to the camera. So it's almost like looks like I dragged the fire point onto the camera. So you see how that fire point's indented underneath the camera. The fire point is now parented to the camera. Okay, so what we'll do now is we'll select the preview button. If you look on the game scene side, you can see that there are bullets coming out, but not in the way that we want. So we'll press escape. We'll select the fire point. Let's raise the fire point up some. Okay, it's somewhat difficult to work with the empty when you can't see it. With the empty selected, if we look to the inspector, see this box here? If we select this box, we can then select one of these shapes under here. So now we can actually see the empty in the scene. Okay, we're going to have to work with the positioning of the fire point. We're also going to need to make a script for the bullet so that it comes out with speed. So it comes out of the fire point with speed. So we're going to right click down in the assets, then go to create, select C# script. And then we're just going to name this bullet script. And we'll press enter. We'll double click to go in this script. Okay, we can see our bullet script right here. We're going to get rid of our update function. Okay, we're going to go above the start function. We're going to put in two variables. So we're going to put in public float speed equals 20f. Then we'll put a in that with a semicolon. Then we're going to put in another variable. So we're putting in public rigid body. We're going to name this RB, then put in a semicolon to end that statement. Okay, now here in the start function, we want to put in RB dot velocity equals transform dot forward times speed, and we'll put in semicolon, a semicolon in that off. Okay, what we're going to do now is go to File, Save, to save that script. Okay, here we are back in Unity. So what we want to do is select our bullet. I'm going to go to this rigid body over to the right, select that a few of these triangles just to shut this. I'm then going to go to the bullet script. Okay, and the bullet script doesn't want to go on there. So what I can do is I can double click on the bullet. So when I double click it, after I double clicked it, I should be able to grab my bullet script and then put this on to the bullet. Then I'll go to the upper left and then just click the arrow just to go back to our regular, the view that we've been in for the most part this whole time, or this whole time. Okay, what we want to do now is left click on our bullet script. You can see we have this rigid body slot there. So we're going to select our bullet. And then, here's our bullet script. So what we're going to do is left click on the rigid body and then drag that into the slot where we see the RB at. Okay, so what we're going to do is go up to our preview button. Okay, we can see that our bullets are firing correctly. So I'm going to press escape and then click the preview button to come out of our game view. Okay, let's introduce an opponent into the world. So what we're going to do is go to the upper left-hand side. We're going to select Game Object, go to 3D Object, and then we're going to select a cylinder. So now we have this cylinder here. I'm going to zoom back by rolling my mouse wheel back. Give the cylinder some distance. Raise the cylinder up so it's above the ground. Okay, let's make material for the opponent. So we're going to right click, go to create. We're going to go down to material. We'll name this opponent M for opponent material. Press enter to lock that in. Okay, we're going to make this this opponent material a reddish color. So with this opponent M selected, we'll look to the right. We look to where we see albedo. We'll left click. So we want this to be a reddish color. So with that color changed to this reddish color, now we'll just left click and drag this. Second, let's select the opponent. Let's left click and drag this. Wait a second. So we'll select the opponent. What we can do is we can left click and drag this over. All this. That's interesting. Okay. Okay, there we go. I'm not sure what was going on there. Okay, what we want to have happen now is we want to have our opponent have the ability to be able to be destroyed once it's fired upon, or once a bullet hits it. Okay, so to do that, we're going to go to our bullet script. We're going to double click on that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to this bottom or almost bottom bracket, press enter. Then we're going to put in this code, private space void on collision enter parentheses, we want capital C, collision space collision okay, wait a second. Okay, what we want here is an if statement. So we want if space parentheses, whoops, collision dot transform dot tag equals we're going to put in quotation opponent quotation, there we go, quotation and return, there we go. We want a curly bracket destroy parentheses collision dot game object, come out of the parentheses, put in a semicolon, and we want to take this away. We want to have this say destroy parentheses game object and a semicolon. Okay, we're going to go up the upper left. We're going to save this script. Okay, here we are back in Unity. We're going to select our cylinder. We're going to right click. We'll rename this opponent. And then what we want to do is look to the all the way to the right where we see this tagged, untagged. We're going to left click here. We're going to select add tag. We're going to select this plus button. We're going to name this opponent. Then select save. Okay, with that done, we're going to go back over to our hierarchy view, left click on opponent. Then we're going to go up to where we see tagged, and currently this is untagged. We're going to select one of these triangles. Then we're going to select opponent. So now this has the tag of opponent. Okay, now when we go up to the preview window, we look to find our opponent. So now when we shoot the opponent disappears, which is what we want. So we're going to press escape now to come out of this preview window. Okay, what we want to do now is set up some AI for the enemy. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the upper left. We're going to go to Game Object, 3D Object. Then we're going to select a cube. We're going to go to the upper left to make this cube bigger. We'll make it longer like that. We'll raise this cube up. I'll roll my mouse wheel to zoom back. So this is just going to be an obstacle for the enemy to go around. So we'll right click, go to create. We'll then go to material. We'll name this House M. We'll go to albedo. We'll make this a greenish color. Select this. Not sure why it's not letting me drag that on, but there we go. So we'll hold Control, press D, which duplicates. Wait a second, I thought it was Control D. And that is Control D. We'll press Control D again. Pull this out to the side. We'll select this one, move this towards the center. We'll select, I'll hold Shift, we'll select. Okay, maybe not, we'll select here. Control D. We'll just move this back some like this. Control D. We'll just move this over to the side like this. Okay, so these green meshes are obstacles for our opponent to go around. What we're going to do is hold the Alt key, hold the left mouse button to rotate. We're going to left click on our opponent. We're going to go over to the right side. We're going to select Add Component. We're going to go down to Navigation. We're going to left click on Navigation. Then we're going to select Nav Mesh Agent. Okay, with these settings we have here, we're going to look at speed. We're going to change the speed to 2. For the acceleration, we're going to change this to 20. For the stopping distance, we're going to change this to 2. Should be good with that. So now we're going to add a rigid body. We'll go to Physics, Rigid Body. Okay, we're going to click this triangle for the rigid body settings. We're going to put a check mark next to is kinematic. So we should have what we need to have the enemy have AI now. Okay, now we need to make a script to control the opponent. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click, then go to create C# script. We're going to name this opponent controller. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to double click on this opponent script. Okay, one thing that's important to take note of is when you look at these namespaces here to use artificial intelligence working with the Nav Mesh in Unity, you need to put this in to have your artificial intelligence work. So we're going to put in using capital U, Unity, capital E, engine dot capital A, capital I, and then a semicolon. Okay, we're going to go right under this first curly bracket. We need to put in a bunch of variables. So we're going to put in public float look public float look radius, and this is going to help us to set things up so that the enemy only follows you once you get close enough to it. We'll put in equals 10 F, then semicolon. Okay, we'll go to the next line. Then we'll put in capital T, transform, target, semicolon. We'll go to the next line. Then we'll put in capital N, nav, capital NA, capital NAV, capital ME, Nav Mesh, capital A, agent, then agent again, semicolon. Okay, we're going to go to the start function. We're going to put in target equals game object dot find with tag parentheses quotation player go outside of parentheses. We'll put in transform, then end that off with a semicolon. Okay, we'll go to the next line. Then here we're going to put in agent space equals get component lesser than nav mesh agent. Come outside of a greater than sign. We'll put in parentheses, come outside the parentheses, then put in a semicolon. Okay, now we're going to go to the void update. Here what we're going to enter is float distance equals vector 3 dot distance parentheses target dot position oops, then we want to put in comma space transform dot position. Then we'll end that statement off by going outside the parentheses and putting a semicolon in. Okay, what we want to do now is put an if statement in that controls when the enemy starts to chase after the player character. So we're going to put in if space distance is less than equal to look radius. Well, it's out the parentheses there. We'll put in a curly bracket. Then we'll enter in agent dot set destination parentheses target dot position. We'll end the statement off with a semicolon. Okay, what we're going to do now is come down to this next curly bracket. Actually, the next curly bracket. We'll press enter. Then we're going to enter private void on draw gizmos selected. So so inside these curly brackets, we're going to put in gizmos dot color space equals color dot red. We'll put in a semicolon to end off that statement. We'll also put in on the next line gizmos dot draw wire sphere parentheses transform dot position comma space look radius. Then we'll come outside the parentheses and end this off with a semicolon. Okay, with that done, we'll go to the upper left, the file, then we'll save this. Okay, here we are back in Unity. So we're going to select our player. Our player does have a player tag, so that's good. So now what we need to do is we're going to select our opponent. We're going to select add layer. We're going to go to layer 10. We're going to name this layer moving. Objects. So now I'm going to go back to the opponent since I have that new layer. And then I'm going to go to the upper right and I'm going to select for the opponent to be on the moving objects layer. I'm going to select our player as well and then go to the upper right. I'm going to move the player to the moving objects. So this says, do you want to set a layer to moving objects for all child objects as well? I'm going to select yes, change children. Okay, what we want to do also is we want to select our opponent. We're going to grab the opponent script, left click and drag it onto the opponent. Okay, with all that done, what we want to do is go to our layer. We want to go to our, there we go, our upper layer to the right. And then for our moving objects, we're going to select the eye to hide our player as well as our opponent. Okay, what we want to do with that done is we're going to go to our scene window. Now left click and drag over all of our objects here. We're going to go to our navigation window. If you don't see a navigation window, you can go to Window, here. Oh, AI, there you go. So Window, AI, and then navigation, and you'll be able to see the window. So with all these objects selected, in the navigation tab, we're going to select bake. So once we do that, we see these options here pop up. Okay, so we're going to leave these settings here default, and then we're just going to select bake. So this blue area now should, our enemy will be able to look at this blue area here and know where it can go to travel around the obstacles there. Okay, so with all that done, just going to left click off of that. We'll go back to the inspector. We'll go to our layers near the upper right. We'll unhide moving objects where our opponent as well as our player is at. So now we'll go to play. Let's see if this works. So we've got to go towards our player. So once we get close enough, up, and it is working. So let's make sure he's going around. Yep, he's going around. Okay, I'm gonna press escape. Then select the preview button to come out of there. Okay, so what we can do is we can go to our opponent, select the opponent, then we can hold control, press D, and make another opponent just like that. Then we can hold control, press D. We can make another opponent. We'll hold control, press D, and then make one more opponent. Okay, so we're just going to go up to the preview button. So now when I move forward, they see me. When I get close enough, they react. I can also shoot them. So now there's these other ones. They're reacting as well. I'll shoot them. So this is working well. So I'm going to press the escape button, then go to the preview button to come out of the that game mode. So this is working. We have the beginnings of an actual game here. Okay, you can imagine you could just keep duplicating the opponents. Once you have the basic programming in, you can also replace these cylinders with opponents that are more interesting looking. Okay guys, that's it for the tutorial. For all of those of you out there who like the videos on this channel, we share them. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And for those of you who are new to this channel, if you like the videos on this channel, you would like to see more, please subscribe, and thank you for viewing.